What if the greatest secret to self-healing lay not in external medicines or complicated rituals, but in something as simple as not eating for a while? This idea, at first glance, seems contradictory, almost absurd. We've been taught that strength comes from what we eat, that health is built by accumulating nutrients. But ancient traditions whisper another truth to us, that by emptying, by stopping, by silencing the body, what really happens is that we awaken its most hidden power. Fasting, more than a physical practice, is a frequency. This is how the sages of different cultures understood it. It's not just about abstaining from food. It's about entering a different vibrational state, like someone tuning a radio and suddenly hearing clearly a music that was always there, but was covered by noise. This change in frequency causes the body, instead of spending its energy processing, storing and defending itself, to focus its attention on cleansing, regenerating and healing. Imagine a river blocked by branches and stones. The water continues to flow, but the current becomes slow, murky and heavy. When you remove the obstacles, the river regains its purity, its speed, its freshness. Fasting also works within us. It clears, frees, renews, and in that empty space, life itself finds the path to self-healing. On a spiritual level, the experience is even more fascinating. When fasting, the mind calms, emotions quiet, and what seemed like constant noise becomes fertile silence. It is in this silence that the connection with the divine becomes most tangible. That's why prophets, mystics, and seekers of all ages have used fasting as a bridge to the sacred. Fasting is essentially opening a portal. The body lightens, perception sharpens, and the soul rises to a vibration where healing occurs naturally. In this video, we will explore fasting not as a diet or a fad, but as an ancient art of remembering self-healing. You will discover how fasting redirects the body's energy toward deep healing. What does this practice symbolize spiritually in ancient traditions? Why does abstaining from the external open the door to the eternal? And how can you integrate it into your life as a ritual of cleansing, clarity, and connection with your true self? Fasting is the secret frequency of self-healing because it reminds us of a forgotten truth, that the body knows how to heal, that the soul knows how to guide, and that inner silence is the greatest remedy. Fasting is not a modern invention or a passing fad. It is an invisible thread that connects the most ancient cultures with the spiritual quests of all time. Wherever people sought clarity, strength, or revelation, fasting always appeared as a key to access, not as a fruitless sacrifice, but as an art of remembering that in renouncing the external, one finds the eternal. In Eastern traditions, particularly in India, fasting was seen as a means to cleanse not only the body, but also the mind and karma. Yogis practiced it to silence appetites, not only those of the stomach, but also those of the restless mind. The goal was to create a void where consciousness could expand beyond the limits of the ego. It was said that by fasting, one ceased to be a slave to desire and became master of oneself. In the Greco-Roman world, philosophers such as Pythagoras and Socrates recommended fasting before initiating their disciples into the mysteries. They knew that a mind saturated with excess could not grasp the highest truths. For them, abstaining from food also meant preparing the ground for the soul. Just as one clears a field before sowing, fasting was then a philosophical act, a space of clarity where truth could take root. The Abrahamic traditions also elevated fasting to a central practice. In Judaism, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, was inseparable from abstinence because it was understood that hunger opened the door to reflection and forgiveness. In Christianity, Jesus retreated to the desert for 40 days, not to punish himself, but to enter a rhythm where temptation could not overcome him. And in Islam, Ramadan represents that same sacred discipline, a reminder that restraining the body frees the spirit. But beyond formal religions, fasting has been part of the ancestral wisdom of indigenous peoples. Shamans from different cultures used it before ceremonies, to prepare for receiving visions, and to open themselves to the voice of the spiritual world. In these practices, hunger wasn't meant to be a form of suffering. It was a form of tuning, like tightening the string of an instrument before it emits its purest music. The common denominator in all these traditions is clear. Fasting was not understood as a form of lack, but rather as abundance. By detaching oneself from external nourishment, a space was opened up to nourish oneself with the invisible, with clarity, with strength, with connection to the divine. It was, in short, a discipline that transcended the physical to become a philosophy of life. Today, in a world saturated with excess, fasting is once again presented as a reminder of what it always was, a bridge between the human and the sacred, a practice that not only regenerates the body, but also cleanses the memories of the soul and awakens the awareness that healing begins in inner silence. In music, the human body, as conceived by the ancient sages, is not a machine that needs constant fuel, but a temple that knows how to regenerate itself when granted silence. In this logic, fasting is not deprivation but opportunity. An opportunity to allow the most subtle and powerful processes to awaken. Let's imagine our body as an illuminated city. During the day, the lights are barely noticeable because our attention is focused on the traffic, the noise, the constant movement. But when night falls and external activity ceases, the internal lights shine brightly. Fasting works in a similar way. When the activity of digestion, which consumes much of our energy, ceases, the repair and cleansing systems that usually remain in the background are activated. From a biological perspective, this translates into fascinating phenomena such as autophagy, the process by which cells eliminate waste and regenerate. The ancients didn't know the term, but they did perceive the effects: mental clarity, physical lightness, renewed energy. It was evident to them that emptying the stomach ignited a hidden power, as if the body were feeding on itself not through destruction, but rather through the wisdom of recycling and rebirth. But beyond the physiological aspect, the essence of fasting is its vibrational frequency. Every human action emits a vibration, and digestion, that constant task of breaking down, absorbing and transforming, produces a dense vibration. It's not negative, but it is heavy. By ceasing it, we enter a lighter, more subtle state, more in tune with the deep waves of consciousness. It's as if the orchestra of life turned off the bass instruments and allowed only the finest strings to play, those that resonate with the spirit. In this state, human beings experience something we might call the silence of the senses. By not being obsessed with flavor, with immediate desire, with palate satisfaction, a broader perception emerges. The mind clears and thoughts suddenly become clear, as if washed by an invisible river. Emotions calm, no longer fueled by the chemical ups and downs of constant digestion. The soul then finds space to express itself. This is one of the secrets of fasting. It not only cleanses the body, but also clears the channel of intuition. In many traditions, it was considered essential before receiving revelations or visions. Physical emptiness mirrored the inner emptiness necessary to hear the voice of the spirit, and those who practiced it achieved not only health, but also wisdom. Another key to fasting is that it reveals our relationship with attachment. Hunger is not just a call of the body, it is often an echo of the mind and emotions. By fasting, we discover how much we depend on external resources to calm us, distract us, or fill emotional voids. We face the naked truth that we don't need as much as we think, that human beings can sustain themselves with much less, and in that less find unexpected abundance. Herein lies the esoteric teaching. Fasting is a training in freedom. Freedom from impulses, freedom from uncontrolled desire, freedom from the tyranny of the body over the spirit. This doesn't mean rejecting the body, but rather giving it its place, reminding it that it is the servant of consciousness, not its master. In this renewed relationship, the body strengthens and the soul expands. That's why it's said that fasting is a secret frequency of self-healing, because it's not just the absence of food, but the presence of a new vibrational state. It's like entering a sacred chamber where time stops and vital energy is rearranged. Those who experience it consciously understand that healing isn't about adding something external, but rather allowing the internal to do its work. While fasting presents itself as the key to healing and clarity, it's also a path full of nuances. It's not a linear path, nor is it always comfortable. It involves confronting internal resistance, accumulated memories, and in many cases, the shadows we prefer to keep hidden. That is precisely its transformative power. It forces human beings to confront what is essential. Hunger in its first hours can seem like an enemy. The body complains, the mind demands, emotions are stirred. But here's the paradox. What at first feels like emptiness soon reveals itself as fullness. It's like entering a dark cave and discovering that, as your eyes adjust, the darkness isn't the absence of light, but another kind of clarity. The ancients knew this. Fasting was not only a purification practice, but a ritual of death and rebirth. By abstaining from food, the body entered a liminal state, a threshold between the everyday and the sacred. The faster symbolically died to their attachments, their excesses, their routines, and was reborn with renewed energy, lighter and more conscious. This power, however, also holds its warnings. Just as it can liberate, it can destabilize if not done with respect. Fasting reveals what is hidden, repressed emotions, thoughts we had anesthetized with the distraction of eating, memories buried beneath noise. For this reason, many traditions accompanied fasting with prayer, meditation, or communal rituals. The emptiness had to be sustained by a sacred intention. Otherwise, it could become mere suffering. On a spiritual level, fasting has an even deeper meaning. It breaks the illusion of total dependence on the material world. We discover that we are not just consumers of external food, but generators of internal energy. It's a reminder that true nourishment comes not only from what enters the mouth, but also from breathing, from silence, from connection with the divine. Some mystics have even spoken of nourishing oneself with light. And although this may sound symbolic, the subjective experience of fasting makes one feel as if one is indeed beginning to nourish oneself from another source. The greatest secret is that fasting teaches us to trust the body's intelligence. It shows us that the body has hidden repair mechanisms, that it knows how to balance itself if we give it space. But it also teaches us to trust the intelligence of the soul, which uses that space to speak to us clearly. It is, therefore, a dual practice, physical and spiritual, earthly and heavenly, painful and liberating at the same time. Thus, fasting becomes a bridge between opposites, hunger and plenitude, silence and revelation, death and rebirth. Those who practice it with respect not only cleanse their body, but also pass through a portal to a new understanding of themselves, that true abundance is born from emptiness, and that true power emerges when we learn to let go. Fasting, like any sacred practice, is not about extremes, but about awareness. It is not a challenge of endurance, nor a punishment, nor a passing fad. It is an act of listening and reverence for the body and spirit. Therefore, the first piece of advice is to respect your own rhythm. Each body is a different universe. Some people may feel fulfilled with longer fasts, while others need to start with shorter periods, such as a few hours of abstinence. The real power isn't in the amount of time, but in the intention with which you do it. The second tip is to turn fasting into a ritual, not a mechanical routine. Before you begin, sit in silence and set a clear intention. What are you seeking to release, heal, or understand? Close your eyes and visualize that each moment without food is a space you open for your body to cleanse and your soul to speak. If you accompany this with conscious breathing or meditation, the experience ceases to be a simple physical act and transforms into a doorway to mystery. A third tip is to cultivate gratitude throughout the process. Instead of focusing on what you can't eat, focus your attention on what you're gaining. Lightness, clarity, freedom. Whenever you feel hungry, remind yourself that this sensation isn't an enemy, but a teacher showing you how conditioned you are by the need for the immediate. Accept this discomfort like someone receiving a profound message, and you'll suddenly discover that hunger is also prayer. The fourth tip is to accompany fasting with pure water. Water is the great vehicle for cleansing the body and spirit. Imagine that each sip is a river that carries away impurities, old memories, and accumulated tensions. In this way, fasting ceases to be dryness and becomes a flow of renewal. Some ancient peoples viewed water as the inseparable ally of fasting, a symbol of life, movement, and purification. A fifth piece of advice is to know when to stop. Fasting should not become stubbornness or pride. Listen to your body. If you feel weak, dizzy, or disconnected, don't push it. Wisdom lies in recognizing your limits. Pushing yourself beyond what's necessary turns medicine into poison. Balance is key, because fasting doesn't seek to destroy, but to regenerate. Finally, the most profound advice: take fasting beyond food. Learn to fast from negative thoughts, empty words, and toxic emotions. Abstain, even for a few hours, from consuming news that intoxicates, social media that distracts, or conversations that drain energy. This type of fast is as powerful as physical fasting, because it reminds you that what you ingest, through your eyes and ears also, nourishes or poisons your being. Fasting, understood in this way, ceases to be an isolated practice and becomes a philosophy of life, a reminder that not everything is about adding, but sometimes about subtracting, not always about filling, but about emptying. And in this conscious emptiness, the body is renewed, the mind is calmed, and the soul remembers its original freedom. In following this journey, we have discovered that fasting is not absence, but presence. It is not a bitter renunciation, but a luminous opening. A profound paradox is revealed in it. When we stop filling, we begin to receive. When we empty ourselves, the divine finds space to dwell within us. Fasting is the secret frequency of self-healing, because it attunes the human being to a higher order of existence. In our daily lives, we tend to be trapped in a relentless cycle of consumption, food, stimuli, and distractions, which prevents us from hearing the murmur of what's essential. But when we choose to pause, even for a few hours, we enter another dimension. The body is purified, the mind is cleared, and the soul is elevated. It's not just about physical health. Although the benefits are evident, it's about remembering that true nourishment comes from multiple sources. From conscious breathing, from inner silence, from connection with nature, from the love we share and receive. By fasting, we discover that we are more than just hungry bodies. We are channels of energy, living temples capable of regeneration and vibrating in harmony with the universe. Fasting, as the ancients taught, is a ritual of death and rebirth. We die to attachment, to excess, to the compulsive need to always have more, and we are reborn in lightness, clarity, and freedom. Every fast is a reminder that we don't need to accumulate to be fulfilled. Fulfillment arises from contact with our essence, that divine spark that never ages, never gets sick, never dies. And here lies the true treasure. When you practice fasting mindfully, you discover that your body is wiser than you imagined. You begin to trust its ability to balance, cleanse, and heal itself. But you also learn to listen to the voice of your soul, which uses that silence to whisper truths you couldn't perceive amidst the noise. Now, this knowledge can remain theoretical or be transformed into a living experience. The choice is in your hands. You can continue to nourish yourself only with external things, or you can dare to empty yourself to nourish yourself with the eternal. Fasting doesn't require great feats or extreme sacrifices. It demands awareness, respect, and a willingness to listen to what arises in the emptiness. So I invite you to try it in your own way, at your own pace, maybe for a few hours, maybe for a day. Don't see it as deprivation, but as a gift. Not as suffering, but as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself. You'll see how your body responds, how your mind lights up, and how your soul smiles. And if this message resonated with you, remember to subscribe to the channel. Leave your like and share this video so that more people can discover that healing doesn't always come from outside, but already resides within, waiting just a moment, a little silence to reveal oneself. Because fasting is not an end in itself, but a path towards self-healing, toward fulfillment, toward the freedom that arises from conscious emptiness.